It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, live from Washington this evening. Our top story. Kamala Harris on course for a coronation as the Democratic Party rallies around her. She pays tribute to the president who's endorsed her as his successor.
Our President Joe Biden fights for the American people, and we are deeply, deeply grateful for his service to our nation.
Welcomed by supporters in Delaware this evening, but does she have what it takes to beat Donald Trump and win the White House?
I'm not sure if America is ready for a female black president.
She's not a withered old man, and she seems, at the very least, vital and healthy and won't die during office.
And we failed. The head of the Secret Service here apologizes after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump.
Also to come on the programme tonight, the Prime Minister sets out plans to tackle the skills gap and he says bring down migration. As the Conservatives announce their timetable to appoint Rishi Sunak's successor, the contest starting this week. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight.
Good evening then from Washington. It's a little more than 24 hours since the US President Joe Biden announced he would not seek re-election in November, throwing his party into uncharted waters. But already his Vice President, Kamala Harris, seems to have emerged as the heir apparent. Political donations have surged and a succession of senior Democrats have fallen in behind her as she paid tribute to Biden in her first public appearance since his decision. But it's not a done deal yet. Tonight, we will hear from voters in California about whether they believe Ms. Harris could beat Donald Trump, and we'll have global reaction to President Biden's decision to stand aside. But first, our US correspondent James Matthews reports on another remarkable day in US politics.
Suddenly, she's bigger news. The size of a Monday morning media pack said so. They framed Kamala Harris with the White House. No accident for no ordinary photo call. It's all for the presidency now.
Distinguished guests, the Vice President of the United States.
She spoke to American athletes on the South Lawn. On her own race, she spoke only of the man who'd fired the starting gun.
Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already, yes, you may clap. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who have served 2 terms in office.
Harris has triggered more than $150 million in fresh donations, and support has been further cemented by Nancy Pelosi, former Speaker of the House. She said, "My enthusiastic support for Kamala Harris for president is official, personal and political. Politically, make no mistake, Kamala Harris as a woman in politics is brilliantly astute, and I have full confidence that she will lead us to victory in November." The shadow contest to be a running mate is underway too. There are early signs of white middle-aged men in a beauty contest to balance the ticket.
The vice president is smart and strong, which will make her a good president. But she's also kind and has empathy, which can make her a great president.
If you want a nominee who actually prosecuted criminals like Donald Trump, and if you want a nominee who can put Trump's age and fitness into forefront, Kamala Harris is the person.
While the woman who could be president visited Wilmington, there was no sign of the actual president who has a home here. Joe Biden was 75 miles away, self-isolating with COVID in his other house by the beach. His opponents say he shouldn't return to work.
I have suggested that the president should resign. The reason is, if everyone acknowledges that he is incapable of running a campaign, then he's clearly incapable of running the country.
J.D. Vance, accompanied by Usha Vance.
A new face in the race changes the rules of engagement. Donald Trump's running mate gave his first rally since being picked. Talk of reducing political rhetoric being so important seems so last week.
Kamala Harris lied about it. My Senate Democratic colleagues lied about it. The media lied about it. Every single person who saw Joe Biden knew that he wasn't capable of doing the job. And for 3 years, they said nothing until he became political dead weight.
There's no doubting the momentum building quickly around Kamala Harris. Her party is coalescing behind her, excited and relieved by change. Her challenge is to harness and hold that support through a public campaign starting here. It is the job interview, and it doesn't get any bigger. James Matthews, Sky News, in Wilmington, Delaware.
Well, Kamala Harris has been by Biden's side for the last 4 years and could make history were she to be elected as America's first female president. The question, of course, is whether voters will back her. Sky's US correspondent Martha Kellner has been finding out and reports now from Venice Beach in California.
It's a long way from Pennsylvania Avenue. This is Kamala Harris's upmarket LA neighborhood, where she spends much of her time. But as she furiously builds the case to get the keys to her own White House, not everyone is convinced. Were you surprised that Joe Biden stepped aside? What was your reaction?
I feel like it's for the best for America and for the future generation of politics. I feel like he was a little bit too old.
Do you think America's ready for a female president, for a woman of colour?
Definitely, 100%. I think it's long overdue.
Do you think America is ready for a female president, for a woman of colour?
There are a lot of stupid people in this country, so I hope so, but fingers crossed.
Kamala and her husband Doug have been known to work out at the Santa Monica stairs. Supporters believe she, at 59, is fit enough to lead a tough campaign that Joe Biden might not have managed.
I think Kamala's a better chance because she's not a withered old man, and she seems, at the very least, vital and healthy and won't die during office.
Kamala has lived in LA for 50 years and has met the woman who shares her name. How do you feel about your namesake potentially being the next president of the
Well, what
United
I've loved
States?
about her being VP was that finally people knew how to say my name. Otherwise, it was something so foreign to everyone. I live in LA. There's a whole country between the coasts that I don't know, and they are the majority. But I'm not sure if America is ready for a female black president.
In Washington, D.C., polling shows Harris is already performing better against Trump than Biden was, but there's a mountain to climb.
I think she has a better chance. Still think it's a difficult ask. That's partly because the Republicans haven't defined her yet. They're working very hard. They're working very hard to tie her to Biden's record, which obviously she is a part of, and she's on that ticket. But we don't know yet whether that will work. And they have now lost, the Republicans have now lost their best argument against the Democrats in 2024, which was Biden's age and Biden's incompetency.
To become America's first woman president, Harris will have to wash away the perceived failures of an administration with a woeful approval rating, while also erasing some of the prejudices this electorate still holds. Martha Kellner, Sky News, Los Angeles.
Well, the support within the party for Kamala Harris is clear, but there are still hurdles she'll need to surmount to become the official nominee. Let's take a look at how the process might work from here.
Kamala Harris is the heir apparent and overwhelming front-runner, having been endorsed not only by President Biden, but by other senior Democrats, including the Clintons and now former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. One of the advantages of the party uniting behind the vice president is timing. There is just under a month left before the Democratic National Convention, which begins on the 19th of August in Chicago. That's when the party's presidential nomination must be formalized through a vote by party delegates. President Biden won almost every state primary and caucus earlier this year, giving him 3,896 delegates. He cannot directly transfer his delegates to Vice President Harris, but his endorsement is powerful. It's now up to her to shore up support with the president's delegates before the convention. However, if another candidate decides to run, it could become the first open convention in decades. A rival contender would need at least 300 delegates pledged support to enter the race. A candidate would need a majority, 1,968 delegates' votes, to win the nomination. If no one wins a majority in the first round, then further rounds would take place, taking in votes from more than 700 superdelegates, including former presidents and party leaders, until a winner is chosen.
Let's speak then to our US correspondent, James Matthews, who is in Delaware. Well, it's pretty clear, James, she has the support, she has the money, something like $80 million in 24 hours. Is it now her nomination to walk away with?
It's looking like that, isn't it, Mark? In fact, Reuters are reporting today that Team Harris are hoping that by Wednesday they will have enough delegates in the bag. You were talking through the delegates there. She needs to win that majority. Yes, Joe Biden, they were spoken for in terms of Biden. He'd bagged them early on, but Team Harris have been working the phones. She herself, we're told, spoke to 100 people on the phone yesterday, was on making calls for around 10 hours around the country, trying to get those delegates decanted into her support, and they are having success. They need, half of 4,000 roughly. They have got nationwide something like a quarter in the bag, and they are looking at the middle of the week to get to the magic number. That would be all but a coronation leading up to the convention in August. So that's what she's aiming for. Yesterday she said she wanted to earn and win the nomination. Much talk about whether that would be a contest that she had in mind. It would seem at this stage not. Right now she has flown from Washington to here in Delaware. She's meeting the staff at the campaign office and addressing them. We'll have remarks from her in about 10-15 minutes. She spoke about Joe Biden this morning. She will be meeting that staff because this is a moment of transition when they are told this is your candidate. Staff who've been frustrated at the messenger they have had to sell. They couldn't sell the message with Biden. There is relief and there is excitement and a new energy within Democratic ranks at the change of face. So they'll be looking at Harris. There have to be strategic changes, a campaign now built around her strengths and, of course, her weaknesses, which have been laid bare in the past. We'll see what she has to say in due course. All she's done today is tweet to say, one day down, 105 to go. Let's do this. Fighting talk from the woman who would be president.
OK, James, thanks very much indeed. And if Kamala Harris does speak in Wilmington, Delaware, we will, of course, bring it to you. And she is expected to do that in the next 10 minutes or so. Now, President Biden's decision to stand aside has thrown November's election wide open. And it couldn't come at a more significant time globally, with wars continuing to rage in Gaza and in Ukraine. Sky's international correspondent Alex Rossi has our next report on the global reaction to the president's announcement.
It was the surprise everyone was expecting, but Joe Biden's seismic revelation comes at a time when the world is in crisis, from the Middle East to Ukraine. America's allies have been sympathetic to his decision.
His presidency will leave a legacy that extends far beyond America to freedom and security on this continent.
Joe Biden will be in power for the next 6 months, and as the Democrats scramble to get behind Kamala Harris, he'll be dogged by accusations he's a lame duck president. But it may be that he can instead focus on the big issues of the day. He could put more energy into calming the situation in the Middle East. President Biden will be aware of his legacy. Prime Minister Netanyahu, on his way to the US to address Congress, has a difficult path to tread. He knows it's now not so easy to predict who the next president will be, and his words will be carefully calibrated.
Regardless who the American people choose as their next president, Israel remains America's indispensable and strong ally in the Middle East.
America's enemies in the region may sense weakness, and groups like the Houthis and Hezbollah may try to capitalise, causing more instability on one of the world's fault lines. And in Ukraine, future US commitments, if Trump wins in November with his America First policy, is also far from clear. Likely nominee Kamala Harris has met with President Zelensky in the past, and if she makes history, Biden's policy of full-throated support will almost certainly continue. In Moscow, where enmity with Washington is at Cold War levels, the reaction's been cautious.
At the moment, we cannot judge Ms. Harris's potential candidacy from the point of view of our relations with the US, because we so far haven't heard any kind of input from her regarding bilateral ties.
The US election will have an enormous influence on global events, but at the moment, there's great uncertainty. How the next few months pan out and who succeeds America's retiring 46th president will be watched and scrutinized extremely closely.
And Alex is in Jerusalem for us. And Benjamin Netanyahu is arriving tonight into Washington, where there is utter political turmoil.
Yeah, uncertainty for Prime Minister Netanyahu. This trip to the United States to speak to Congress really was supposed to be a big moment for him. But this news overshadows that. His thunder has been stolen somewhat. And it is really a moment of jeopardy. It will take all of his political skills and calculation on how to proceed, because Joe Biden is going to be in the White House for the next 6 months. He very much needs American support while Israel fights on multiple fronts, including in Gaza. He doesn't want to alienate Donald Trump either, because he might get into the White House and throw into the mix as well a number of protests and angry Democrats when he speaks. So this could be an extremely difficult time. I think he will hedge his bets. He will strike a bipartisan note. But officially, as far as Israel is concerned, none of this will make any difference to how the country prosecutes the war in Gaza. The Israeli government says they will continue until Hamas has been defeated and destroyed and all of the hostages have been returned home.
Yep, OK, Alex, thanks very much indeed. Well, things have moved pretty fast here in Washington. And while all of this has been playing out, you'd be forgiven for forgetting that it was only just over a week ago that Donald Trump was the subject of an assassination attempt. Today, the head of the Secret Service has faced Congress admitting we failed. Sky's David Blevins reports now from here in Washington.
If you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
The bullet missed his head by less than a quarter of an inch. Divine intervention in the eyes of Donald Trump's followers.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth?
But on Capitol Hill, many think the miracle is that the Secret Service director has still got a job.
It is my firm belief, Director Cheadle, that you should resign.
Not only should you resign, if you refuse to do so, President Biden needs to fire you.
If you have an assassination attempt on a president, a former president, or a candidate, you need to resign.
She didn't play down the scale of the security breach.
The assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on July 13th is the most significant operational failure of the Secret Service in decades. We failed. As a director of the United States Secret Service, I take full responsibility for any security lapse.
But the former president's brush with death leaves many unanswered questions. How did Thomas Crooks, the 20-year-old gunman, access the rooftop so close to him? Why was Trump allowed to take the stage? Had the Secret Service declined a request for more security in the wake of a threat from Iran?
The level of security provided for the former president increased well before the campaign and has been steadily increasing as threats evolve.
Her answers did not impress them, fueling a contentious hearing.
The notion of a report coming out in 60 days when the threat environment is so high in the United States, irrespective of party, is not acceptable.
You're full of today. You're just being completely dishonest.
She battles on, but with bipartisan pressure building. For how long? David Blevins, Sky News in Washington.
And that is it for now from Washington, on a day when it becomes more inevitable, almost by the hour, that Kamala Harris will be the Democratic Party candidate for president. An assassination attempt, a serving president forced to stand down from fighting another election. These really are extraordinary days in American politics. Gillian.
Mark, thank you. Back here, the Prime Minister has set out plans to boost training for British workers, who he says have been let down by lack of opportunity and a fragmented, broken system. Sir Keir Starmer's hoping it could reduce the country's reliance on foreign workers while promoting growth. Here's our Deputy Political Editor, Sam Coates.
3 weeks in and out of Labour's comfort zone. A Prime Minister at an arms fair.
Hi, I'm getting a chance to wish you all my level.
Alongside the military establishment, pushing British kit and telling business he wants to end the dependence on foreign migration with a plan to boost skills.
Skills England will work with the Migration Advisory Committee. We will identify current and future skills gaps, put in place plans to address those gaps and reduce our long-term reliance on overseas workers.
You're saying this morning that you want to improve skills training to get British jobs for British workers effectively, but isn't it pay, not skills, that's going to make the difference?
We shouldn't have as high a level of migration as we do simply because we haven't got a skills strategy that works. That's not common sense and we need to change it. An element of that will be about pay, of course.
Challenges that haven't been fixed because of the reliance on overseas labour.
In the early 2000s, we saw some absolutely fantastic technicians that came into the UK from Europe. They were brilliant, well qualified, very competent, but what that did was throw a blanket over the problems that we actually had at home. We realised that there was a skills gap. This has not been listened to by the previous government.
Keir Starmer and his ministers haven't been shy, telling us just how central tackling migration is to their agenda. He's gone far further than his last Labour predecessor, Gordon Brown, would ever have dared. But will all these task forces and agreements and training programmes really make a difference to a global problem? Or is the Labour Party better off just blaming their predecessors? The new Home Secretary singling out the Rwanda scheme as a costly failure.
It has already cost the British taxpayer £700 million. Most shocking of all, the previous government had planned to spend over £10 billion of taxpayers' money on the scheme. They did not tell Parliament that.
We will, of course, work with...
The election's over, but some things don't change.
A particular point, the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition, old habits die hard.
That a slip, but one other habit Labour intends to continue, casting every tough choice as the fault of the Tories. Sam Coates, Sky News, Westminster.
Some universities could close under government plans to force them to manage their own budgets. The government says they have to make efficiencies without further help from the taxpayer. Speaking earlier on Sky News, Education Minister Baroness Jackie Smith was asked if she acknowledged it could lead to some closures.
I hope it doesn't happen, and, you know, that's what we need to work to try to avoid. It's first of all in the hands of universities to take the action necessary in order to be as efficient as possible. But I want to work alongside them in order to make sure that our higher education sector, which is internationally recognised, it's one of the key enablers in this country for individuals and for the economy. I want that to work successfully, and I'm willing to work in partnership to ensure that that happens.
The Conservatives have tonight announced the timetable to elect their new leader, which will start this week. So let's speak to our chief political correspondent, John Craig. What further detail do we have, John? What do we know?
Well, this is a victory for the MPs and in particular for Bob Blackman, who is the new chairman of the 1922 committee. They wanted plenty of time to do this. Party officials at Tory HQ, partly to save money, wanted a quick contest all over in a matter of weeks. That is not going to happen. Rishi Sunak will be acting leader now for more than 3 months. We will know who's won on the 2nd of November. Let me take you through the key dates, Gillian. Nominations will open open on Wednesday. They will close next Monday. Then during August, during the summer recess, there's likely to be all sorts of meetings, hustings and so on. When MPs are back here on the 2nd of September, Tory MPs will vote to get the number of candidates down to 4. Those 4 will take part in what I think we can call a beauty parade at the Tory conference. That starts on the 29th of September, and then party members will vote. They get the final say. Voting will end on Thursday, the 31st of October, and the new leader will be announced on Saturday, the 2nd of November. Now, Mr. Blackman has issued strict orders. No personal attacks. People will be watching, he says. Rishi Sunak's talking about a smooth and orderly transition. Now, as for the potential candidates, well, I've counted 7. That is Priti Patel, that is Robert Jenrick, Kemi Badenoch, James Cleverly, Tom Tugendhat, Mel Stride, and possibly Suella Braverman as well. Many of them in the last few days have been speaking in the Commons. Today it was Mr. Stride and Mr. Cleverly. So, they're under starters' orders. The contest starts on Wednesday when the nominations open, and the new leader will not be announced until the 2nd of November, meaning that Mr. Sunak is leader or acting leader for more than 3 months.
John, thank you very much. Family and friends have offered tributes to 4 members of the same family killed in a crash in West Yorkshire. Shane Roller, his partner Shannon Morgan, and 2 of their 3 daughters, 9-year-old Ruby and Lily, who was 4, died when their car was in collision with a motorcycle on the A61 between Wakefield and Barnsley yesterday afternoon. The 2 people on the motorbike have not been named. The police search for the remains of Muriel Mackay, who was murdered 55 years ago, has been unsuccessful. Officers from the Metropolitan Police began the search on a farm in Hertfordshire last week after one of her killers pinpointed the spot where he buried her body. The search has now been concluded. The majority of the 1,800 staff at the troubled Carpetwright Group are to lose their jobs under a rescue deal worked out by administrators. The rival floorings group, Tappy, is buying 54 of the 272 stores, but only 300 jobs will be saved. And Kensington Palace has released a new photo of Prince George to celebrate his 11th birthday. The black and white picture was taken by his mother, the Princess of Wales, earlier this month in Windsor. Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. Tonight, we're joined by Harry Cole, political editor at The Sun, and The Guardian's political editor, Pippa Crerar. Among the stories we'll be discussing, this on the front of the FT as Kamala Harris begins her campaign to become US president. The headline, Harris close to sealing a nomination as Democratic grandees add support. We'll be right back with that story and others. Do stay with us.